Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to the costumeco channel. And tonight I'm so excited we're doing a Supernatural anniversary live stream. And here I have my very special guest, Kerry Weinrauch. She was the costume designer, 178 episodes of Supernatural, beginning in seasons 8 until the conclusion in 2015. It was 2020. So season 15. So Kerry, welcome so much for coming tonight and joining me. I really appreciate it.
Hi, Heidi. Thanks for having me here.
Yeah, and Kerry and I actually had the great pleasure of meeting you in person when we were at the CAFCAT Awards. That was really fun, and I got to meet your mom.
My mom had a great time.
Yeah, that was a really nice party, actually. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So anyway, I had you on not too long ago to talk about Watson, your other show that you have that's out. But why don't you tell us, so you concluded this show about 5 years ago. Do you want to tell everyone a little bit about what you've been up to since that ended?
Yeah. So with, of course, the lockdown with COVID, we had like 2.5 episodes left to go or two, and I had already been signed on to take over season 2 of Nancy Drew after that. So then it was like you'd get like in the beginning of July, it's like everybody was trying to get their ducks in a row about how we were going to get back to work and with COVID and all things COVID like and what processes and everything we were going to use to keep everybody safe. And then it was like Nancy Drew was going to start. Then it was Supernatural was going to start. And I was like, but luckily Supernatural came back first. They were one of the first shows to come back in Vancouver. So I managed to do that show up until they started shooting the last episode and the rules. And then I had to go on to Nancy Drew. Both parties knew exactly what was happening because it was just something that couldn't be avoided. It was just, because of COVID and the overlap. So because of COVID rules, once I started the other show, I couldn't come back even on stage or on set to Supernatural. So it was really saddening, and really it was just so we were so disappointed. My assistant had been on the show a couple years longer than I had, that we couldn't be there for the final day and the final episode. But that's just the way things worked, and we had to be super careful. But it was great. So I got in there, I got to prep it. And then, of course, I had somebody in there that I still kind of designed from afar and did everything I needed to do to make sure that everything was running smoothly. But yeah, so.
And this is the picture you were telling me. This is.
Yeah, that was the final day of shooting on the bridge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And there was almost everybody came to set that day that could. Because it was outdoors, and so it was a lot easier for people to go to set because they were limiting the amount of people that could be on stages. So it was really lovely, and we were really bummed that we couldn't be there just because it was just such a special moment, finalizing 15 seasons of this show that's been so huge to everyone, and like the crew's lives and the actors' lives and everything. But yeah, so then I did Nancy Drew for 2 years. Then I went and did Are You Afraid of the Dark in the Dominican Republic.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, there's season 3 of the revamp. It was really cool. It was fun. And then I did the Winchesters, of course. Jensen phoned me because when I heard there was going to be a spinoff, I texted him and I'm like, hey, he's like, oh, sorry, babe. It's, in New Orleans, like, we can't bring you.
Yeah.
And then fast forward a couple months and I get a phone call from Jensen. He's like, hey, how do you feel about moving to New Orleans for almost a year?
Oh my gosh. Amazing. Yeah.
So we got all those wheels in motions, got like to qualify for the visa, you had to jump through a bunch of hoops. So it took a little while. And then, I went down there and it was amazing. It was hot.
I can imagine.
It was such a great show. It was really fun just because it really felt like it extended the Supernatural family a little bit more. Just, it was great. And also having Jensen and his wife Danielle there as executive producers. It was really fantastic. And there was a bunch of people, of course, that came back. Like Alex, who plays Jack, was on the show. Richard Speight was on the show. So it was really nice to see familiar faces. I wrote
Carrie,
you, of course.
Carrie, I just wanted to say, so Alicia, my friend is here. Alicia, AK Winchester is here. She's
Hello, good evening, Kerry. It's lovely to meet you. Thank you for inviting me, Heidi.
Yeah, I wanted Alicia to be here because she's a big Supernatural fan, and we thought it would be really fun to hang out and talk to you and, get all of your insights. So anyway, Kerry, thanks so much for sharing that. And as I mentioned, so the last thing, what are you working on now, by the way? Are you working on anything currently?
Well, I did Watson after that, and now I'm working on an Amazon rom-com.
Oh, that's so fun. What a nice change.
I know. It's just like switch it up.
Yeah.
It's really cute. It's based off a book off a Canadian author, Every Summer After. So it's every year after, and it'll be nice. It'll be good.
That's really nice. And of course, big shout out to Canada because Kerry and I are both Canadian.
Yeah.
Now, so I know we were mentioning earlier that you stepped into the show. That must have been really overwhelming, by the way, stepping in for season 8. Like, what was that like for you?
It was pretty crazy. I remember hearing that the designer was leaving, and I was thinking, like, I was driving and somebody had mentioned it to me and called me and said something, and I was like, I should do that show. But then I ended up going to England. I've got friends and family there, and my son was just about to move out, and I was like, I think I'm going to move to England because it was like I had a child very young, and I was like, I want to go. I was setting up meetings with agents over there. I was going to make the transition to move to Europe. And then I got back from Europe. I was seriously only home a day, and my phone rang, and it was the production manager from Supernatural asking me if I was interested to come on. So I went in. It was crazy. I went in for an interview. I think that was like a Monday. I went in for an interview Wednesday, and I think they called me like Wednesday night or Thursday, and they're like, can you start Monday? It was amazing. It was really cool, especially to take over such a huge and special show like that. It was.
I can't even imagine. Now, did you speak to the original designers? So I have it as Diane Wittes and Wittes. Yeah, and Patricia Hargreaves. Did you have a chance to speak to them and just sort of get an idea about what you're getting into?
No, that wasn't really an option.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. No.
So you had to do a trial by fire. Just hop in there.
Anything nefarious. It was just they wanted to start fresh, and it was just like, here you go. These are the characters. Watch these episodes. And quite honestly, I started running so fast. But what I did have was when I brought on the crew, I brought on the sets and truck person were the same people that had been there. Kelly, the truck person, had been there since like day one. And then I brought in somebody else who had dealt with all the stock. So she had infinite knowledge of all the clothing and everything we had. So she was a great person to bring along. And she really caught me up with what the rules were, with who wore what and all this kind of thing. So it was a learning curve, but it was like, I was really welcome with open arms, and like the other departments really helped me out. Like Kerry Weinrauch, the production designer, was fantastic. Like it's just, it really, the Supernatural crew and the actors and everything were really such a huge family after working together that long. It's like, it was really a beautiful thing.
That's amazing. Alicia, we're going to tag team on the questions. Alicia, do you want to ask the next question, if that's okay?
Yes. Let me know if I'm going out of order, though.
No, we're on.
My screens are looking really strange right now.
Mine is. I have it as a number 3. You want it?
Okay.
No. Oh, by the way, and speaking of, if anyone's here in the comments would like to leave a question for Kerry, feel free to do that, and we'll pull it up.
Indeed. Mm-hmm. So yeah, actually, it's great that this is number 3 because this is the first thing that popped into my head just now when you were speaking. It's like, did you repurpose some of the costumes? And in addition, what was like your first like big personal spin on how you were dressing everyone?
I did repurpose some costumes. We did update some things. And I think I went much more into tailoring than in the past. It's like we just flipped some denim out and made it very kind of like just streamlined. We didn't do much because we're not going to, you don't fix something that's not broken either. Mm-hmm. So it was more little details that people probably wouldn't have even noticed. It was just kind of going through and getting through because I mean, they started the show in 12, like 2005. So some of the denim and stuff that was still like in their closets was just so dated. We just kind of, culled a bit and updated things, like talked to the boys. The boys is always Jensen and Jared. To see what they want.
Even now.
Yeah. And then he's in something called The Boys.
He's in The Boys.
Yeah. So it was just really talking with them to see what they wanted updated. And really, it was very much a collaboration, seeing as far as T-shirts, what things they wanted switched up. Like Jensen was very specific about tailoring and his T-shirts and the lengths of T-shirts and the way shirts fit and how long the shirt was and how much it stuck out behind this jacket. Like it was just, so we really dove deep into those, like the minute details for both of them, because it is very much blue collar clothing for them, but to keep them looking good, it was just like using, some better brands and really paying close attention to the tailoring for it.
Nice.
All right. Well, Kerry, that brings me to my question then. So in your opinion, what defines the ultimate signature style for Dean and Sam? Or I mean, I'm sure they have their own.
Well, it was we had rules. I mean, there was always Sam wore V-necks. His shirts were always buttoned up. Jensen crew, his shirts were always open. Sam always had more of a dress shirt. Like he was a little bit more collegiate-y, a little bit more cerebral in his way. Mm-hmm. And then Jensen or Dean was much more blue collar and like rugged. So we really stuck to that's where we stuck more to the flannels, like Carhartt, like work shirty kind of things. And then even if Jared or Sam had a plaid shirt, it was a cotton plaid shirt. It was a proper like button-up dress shirt, not so much like the flannel plaids that Jensen wore. And then it was things like the kind of footwear they wore. It's like Jensen always wore a lumberman's boot, and Jared, I think he wore Blundstones.
I was going to say they look like Blennies. Yes.
Yeah. Because it's like Jared is very tall. So we have also, even though Jensen is like, 6'1" or something like that, we still gave him something with a little bit of a stacked heel just because it just made him look like the small, because Jared is so tall.
Yeah, absolutely. And what about color? Did you have a specific color for like, okay, this is Dean's color, this is Sam's color?
Absolutely. Jensen was much more autumnal. We stayed into those kind of colors. And I'd say Jared was more of like a summer, he was in the blues and the greens, but not so desaturated as Dean was. And then we pull up, autumnal colors on Sam.
Oh yeah, sorry, I have it. Yeah, I love these colors though.
Yes, I mean a lot of it really.
Them.
A lot of it really came down to what was going on with the sets, what one of them was wearing, what mood we were trying to evoke with the colors. And so if it was something darker and cooler and colder, it's like, that's this picture of Dean here. Being darker tones. And then the same with Sam. If he was going through a thing, there was a moment or a character arc, we'd keep his clothing a bit darker and then lighten it up.
Yeah, there you are with the crew neck you were talking about, and
always open.
Always open. And so, what? I never even noticed that. Like, that is crazy. Here, after 15 years, there it is. It's open. So now I'm going to go back and watch it, Kerry, with totally different.
Well, then even with the jackets, Jensen really had more of a Filson, like blue collar thing. And Sam's were more like kind of cargo coats, like much more. And the pockets, we had to really think about pockets. Whenever we were buying anything, we would sew in extra pockets inside of everything because they were pulling so many weapons and things out of it.
Always gadgets.
Yeah. So we had to it's like, oh, how many pockets that coat have? Okay, fantastic. It's great.
I love that. You were talking about you tried to elevate them a little bit with some of the brands, so what brands, which like Carhartt, I think you mentioned.
I mean, Jensen loved Carhartt. He did.
Yeah.
Filson, let me think. I mean, he really loves, as we went further along, Ralph Lauren, the RRL. and just kind of a nicer quality t-shirt. We just went into some better brands because it's just like the really basic t-shirts don't have the nice same drape as when you go into a higher end t-shirt. Just the way the jersey is spun, it drapes over their body and hangs better. So it was really just paying attention to those little details just to, I mean, it seems like basic clothing in the costumes, but really we had to be really thoughtful and intentional as to how they fit their bodies and what looked best on them.
Yeah, and I'm
Especially
sure
since
also
they have
just
to move about a lot.
Yeah, I was going to say also just
And
for
the
comfort, right?
too.
Yeah, they're in
stuff.
these for hours and hours and hours.
Like with stunts,
Yeah.
you'd have to put like gussets into like, for lack of a better word, the crotch of pants. Just because if they're doing kicks and stuff, they just blow out jeans all the time. So we had so many different iterations of the same outfits, you know, because we'd have sometimes 18 multiples in some shirts, like, and jackets. We'd have like 8 and things like that because they were constantly being stunted and harnessed and squibbed and this and that. So we really had to keep a lot of them. And then also with the shirts, because when it got hot in the summer here, we cut all the sleeves off their shirts underneath. So you didn't know that they were actually, it was sleeveless underneath. And then had the proper ones for it if they took the jackets off.
Yeah, because Vancouver in the summer gets very hot, gets very steamy, right?
Yeah, it's pretty hot. Yeah, it's hot today.
Alicia, did you want to ask the next question?
Yeah, actually, I think we have the answer though from how the conversation has gone. But I still want to ask though. Like, the question is, how collaborative were Jared and Jensen? And I'm taking from what you've been saying that Jensen was the more vocal of the two, which I kind of expect. Just knowing him from his other projects, that makes sense to me.
Yeah, are we allowed to say he's a diva?
He's not a diva.
I wouldn't say diva. No.
They're just
particular. He's particular, I think.
He's particular.
He's specific.
He's specific.
I mean, they were both very concerned about like tailoring and everything about that. Jared was much less. He was much more laid back about it. Just because he would rather. It's just he wasn't as fussed about it. But Jensen really, he's all about, you know what I mean? He's got great personal style himself, and it's very important to him.
Yeah.
And but it was really fun because we could talk about, you know, brands and styles and what we were looking for with them. You know, it's like we started going into more like James Purse for t-shirts and things like that and elevating it that way. I mean, we still got the good things for Jared. He just wasn't really as concerned. He'd be like, yep, looks great. Fantastic. Thanks. You know?
And then, so it sounds like also like when you would do a fitting, like would you have just a rack of clothes and then, okay, here are some things for us to try. And then you would just sort of go through them. And then at the end, they would sort of say what they preferred or what was your process like for that?
We would have a rack because they were both working so much. We had to be very specific as to what we were trying on them. So we would kind of put outfits together ahead of time. And sometimes I'd shoot photos to both of them and just to kind of keep, because we would only have half an hour kind of thing sometimes, like, because they'd be on lunch or they'd have to do ADR and all that kind of thing. So yeah, it was quite quick, and they would tell us our favorites, and we would push it forward to the showrunners, who would usually, you know, go with whatever they wanted, and if there was anything, and if they felt strongly about it, and the showrunner said no, I mean, they would just get on the phone, and generally the actor kind of gets it in the end. But also, of course, everything was on par with what their character should be wearing. The fittings, it was just, we couldn't take up much of their time because their time was so valuable to them because, you know, they're having to memorize lines. I was like, they're just, it's nonstop. So you really have to be particular and thoughtful as to what you're pulling and making sure everything's good to go when they come in there.
Well, that's why they hired you. They knew you could keep up.
So other than Jared and Jensen, among the main cast, was there anyone, I was thinking maybe Castiel, any of the other cast that were more particular about their looks or were, you know, compared to others who might have left it completely in your hands?
I mean, Ruth Rowena, it was just,
I got some pictures.
she was particular, but it was a collaboration really,
Mhm.
because it's getting the right look and right fit. She's a tiny, tiny woman.
Mhm.
So it was really getting the alterations done exactly the way we wanted it. And she would have great ideas herself, and we'd bring a bunch of dresses in. And what I'd usually do is a little show and tell with her ahead of time.
Mm.
And then we would pull out the ones that she would ooh and ah about and start there. But she was great. She loved trying the stuff, like the clothes on. She was having the best time ever. I mean, especially it was because her character was just so out there. You could really
Bit of a wild child.
Yeah, you could go in a completely different direction. So it was so much fun.
And she had sort of that witchy aesthetic.
It was so
right.
much fun.
So
I mean, there was sometimes we were leaning into more of a Stevie Nicks vibe, and there's sometimes when it was.
I love that. Yeah. That's
Yeah,
great.
it was like we would play around, and like some really great jewelry we got for her. We had some custom made like arm cuffs done, and just like really played with her character. It was really, really fun. And then she could wear all the colors too, because she can wear all those jewel tones. And so coming from very, desaturated colors with the boys and, most of the cast, because the show was very desaturated the way it was shot too, we could really have fun and be a bit bolder with her.
Yeah. And she's got like she's the redhead too. So it's like those colors look so nice on her. And they did such a nice job also with her hair and makeup, I think.
Oh,
always. It was like, yeah. Alicia, do you want to ask the next question?
Yes, let us go into talks of plaid and leather. Two major staples in the show, we think. So roughly like how many how many plaid shirts and like leather jackets did you go through? Like we talked a little bit in the question before, but let's go in depth.
I know this is an impossible question, by the way, Carrie. I mean, this is silly. It's a silly question.
So
many
plaid shirts. I mean, between Jared and Jensen, it was insane, because we would have a run, and we actually had to keep a logbook as to what plaid shirts we'd worn in each episode so that we didn't repeat it too much. So one of the girls actually had a binder, and we would throw their fitting photo in and track when we'd used it last. Because there was just so many. And then sometimes we'd have this great shirt that, one of the cast loved, but we'd only have 3 or 4 multiples of it. So, or they'd be, one of the higher end ones where you couldn't get so many multiples. So those were for more of the scenes where they're not fighting monsters and wrecking things.
Yeah, there's actually this one I really love. It's sort of like it has a Western vibe.
Yeah. Jared wore more of like the Western-y shirt. Actually, no, Jensen wore them too. They both wore Western-y shirts.
Yeah, I really, and they got the domes on them, and
and you know what? They're both from Texas, and so it kind of.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
should have known that.
One's from Austin, one was originally from Dallas, and so they're both Texas boys, and so it kind of played with them personally too.
Although this is a plaid. Did you ever do a corduroy?
I believe there was. Yeah, we had fine whale corduroy shirt.
Fine whale, yeah.
I think we did them for both. No, it was Sam.
And then the leather, was that more of a Dean thing than a Sam thing?
Yeah, well, the leather jacket that had just ended when I came in. That the dad's leather jacket. We did have to remake it at one point because there was only 2 of them or 1 of them or something. Whatever had happened,
I don't know if this is
it was sent to LA for a photo shoot. And it went missing. Like it got lost.
Oh no.
It was supposed to be Dad Winchester's jacket?
So we had to rebuild it from photos.
No way.
Yeah. So we did that, and it was just copying the breakdown. We had an amazing breakdown team that were in-house. And so people wouldn't have noticed that it was a different jacket, but we had to just rebuild it.
I saw, Kerry, when I went onto the Wikipedia, that they had a major sale, I think, maybe just before you came in. So they must have, but you said also you had to call the stock as well.
We had a sale right the first year I started.
Oh, okay. That must have been the one.
It was insane. I mean, I don't know if you guys have seen like the sound stages for shooting. They're mammoth.
No.
We had half of a stage that had floor to ceiling racks that was like its own rental company. Like we had so many clothes. Like it was insanity. And then we had another storage area, like a 5-minute drive away, with uniforms and like just all the weird stuff that come up, because we kept changing states and areas. And so like police uniforms are different, but we always kept them because we changed them and alter them for whatever state with the flashes and all that, or like the insignias and everything. So there was so many clothes.
Yeah. Plus you have to do all the backgrounds. So did you have an assistant designer by any chance?
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah. And then did you have someone in charge of background to dress the background with all of that you would have had to do? So, and so were you able to repurpose even some of the principal costumes onto some of the background people, or did you have to keep that? You weren't allowed to do that?
We never did that. They got hot stocked, especially just because I think even in those cells when we never called any of the Sam and Dean stuff. We never called any of the leads, because it just kind of puts things into a position where it gets weird, and
also you never know, you might have to do a continuity.
We might do it again, and then they do flashbacks, and so we really had to hot stock everything. And that's something that we kept all that stuff, like just the things that the prime pieces. Like we never would have put a Castiel trench coat into one of those colorings, even if it was damaged and ripped and stuff. There was no way it would ever go there.
Alicia, is it your turn? Sorry if
I believe so. Let's see. Well, were there any particular pieces like rings, watches, like, side piece things that were like super important that you or either of the boys always wanted to have in?
Always wanted to have
signature items that they would always need.
Yeah,
like did Dean wear the same
watch? Amulets. Yeah. Those kind of items were always covered by props.
Oh, they were. Okay, that's interesting.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah, that was all props. So we didn't deal with that. Of course, there was like favorite jackets and things like that. I think there was like a suede Filson, or there was like Jensen got into, like there were some Barber jackets, kind of in the later episodes that he always wanted to wear the fancy ones. And it's like, babe, you're going to be harnessed and bloody and this and that. You save the pretty ones for, how about wreck these guys over here?
For when you just have to like punch someone and that's it.
Exactly.
No demon killing with it.
Yeah.
What about rings? Was that also props?
That's also props.
Oh, that's not fair.
I mean, for Rowena, if it was with the costume, we would do it. Like I said, there was armbands and things we do for that. And we did her jewelry, or hand jewelry, because that was much more part of the costume. It wasn't. Yeah, it was. There's this weird fine line. Normally, when I start a show, props and we get together and we start negotiating as to who's doing what.
My question now is, so Sam and Dean, they wear a lot of disguises. They're always pretending to be other people, and on all of their cases. So, do you have a favorite undercover look for them that you did over the years?
Well, of course, we should discuss this. LARPing. The LARPing one was one of my
let me grab that picture. See if I can find the LARPing.
That was so much fun. It was crazy shooting it too. It was so much fun.
Here it is. Okay.
But that's like, I can't even remember how many extras. We're talking like 150, maybe more, all in these outfits. And then Sam and Dean's we made from scratch. So I love those. And then there's others ones that they're not quite undercover, but more sequency ones, alternate realities, so to speak. Like I love the one with Dean when he's on the submarine, when he's in the sailor outfit. And then there's the other one when he's with Garth and they do their tap dance routine in black and white. I loved that outfit. It was just like, and also who knew everybody could dance that well? And then we've already talked about the Charming Acres or the Pleasantville or whatever the one.
I have that here.
When Sam was dressed up as like uptight small town dad, it was really hard not to bust out laughing.
So fun. Actually, it was like I watched a sequence of like one of the scenes with Sam and Dean when you put on a play. So
Oh,
based
that
on
was the
Chuck's,
200th episode. And when we
yeah.
dressed
So
everybody up like
Alicia, do you remember
international
that?
people.
So based on the book, a group of, I think it's like an all-girls school.
Yeah.
They put on, it's funny because years ago, I used to work with an all-girls school, Branksome Hall, which is an all-girls school in Toronto, and I used to do their costumes for them. And so the girls would play the guy parts, right? And so you have them like cross-dressing, and it's so fun. And then like Dean is furious.
That was so much fun.
Yeah.
It was just dressing all the kids, teenagers, up as Sam and Dean. And then for the other girl who was the director, did she have a beret or not?
She did. She had a beret.
So that was complete Wes Anderson.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So
and I love the school uniforms you had for them too. They were really. Now, let me ask you a question for the LARPing episode. Like, where did you get, like, besides the ones that you made from scratch, where did you get all those costumes? Did you go to a LARPing like company? I don't know.
Well, we hired a lot of people who LARPed.
Okay. Oh, you did. That's so fun.
I was gonna say they probably brought their own things.
Yeah, so but it had to be medieval LARPing.
Okay.
And then really we just scoured because they gave us episodes like that. They'll give you a bigger heads up rather than just getting a script and you're shooting it in 2 weeks.
Sure.
So everybody was just looking high and low. There's certain companies that do remake kind of old timey costumes. I think refurbished, like some of them are Western more style. So we just refurbished those and altered them to look more like LARPing. We did a lot of leather wrapping around boots and then the tunics, I believe there were some tunics that everybody was wearing because the different teams. We had those made.
We've got actually a comment here. I was going to say the Oz episode. Casteller says, Charlie and Supernatural. Yes, of course. Love she went to the Yellow Brick Road on Oz. Was that your episode, though, when you did the Dorothy Wizard of Oz? Or was that prior?
Oh, it was. And now I'm forgetting anything about it other than the shoe.
You had actually, if I recall, it was like a kind of a 1940s vibe to it. To the actress who played Dorothy, if I recall.
Yes, I'm actually completely blanking on the episode. The only thing
she wears like jodhpurs or high-waisted pants and like a little leather jacket. It was super cute, if I recall.
Yes. Oh, that's right.
Picture. Yeah.
Yeah, it was almost a little bit more Amelia Earhart, wasn't it?
Amelia Earhart, exactly. Amelia Earhart, and that's why they even had the scarf.
Yeah,
that was so fun. Anybody else watching, by the way, if you have a question for Kerry or a comment, please feel free to leave it in the comments. Alicia, I think is it your turn now?
I do believe it is. So
I'm terrible at
keeping track.
So thank goodness she's here.
With all the blood and gore in the action scenes, I know you said that you had like rows and rows of multiples before. Like how many for like the continuity for like all the stunt work and everything? How many of those like roughed up doubles did you have to make?
Great question.
Did we have to what? Sorry.
Did you have to make or have on hand to be used?
I mean, multiples.
Quite honestly, a lot of the time between Sam and Dean, we had seriously some shirts we'd have like 16 of, and jackets we'd like have like 8, 9. And even that wasn't enough. We would just buy as many as we possibly could find. But then we also had to size up for stunts because if they're wearing any harnesses and stuff, so there would be different sizes. But then with Jared also, if he started working out, he would change sizes. So we'd have to, depending on what was going on and how much the boys were working out, they might change sizes partway through the season. And so then you have to have size up, size downs, just
So would Jared start working out just as the new season began, and then he would bulk up, or
no, not really. They had a rolling gym. They had a gym that was always there.
Yeah,
just so the boys could, didn't have to go anywhere. And sometimes they were, you know what I mean? They just were really into it, and you could tell because all of a sudden things stopped fitting as well, and you just have to make sure we had backups. But we would seriously, like even in one episode, because everything's not shot in continuity, you go back and forth depending on what the location is. So you go back from clean to kind of dirty to really dirty to bloody. And so you have to have all these different versions of it. Plus you have to have multiples in each version for laundry. So it's like each stage of a breakdown, you might have 3 or 4 of those. And so depending on the episode, it's like you could end up using seriously 16 shirts in just one episode.
Yeah, like here, I just wanted to show this picture of Crawley, for instance, where he's being tortured. And so this is at obviously a pretty distressed point. So you would have had multiple versions
Oh, yeah.
of this, right, at the different stages. Actually, he tends to wear this black trench. I think, is that sort of his...
That's kind of his staple. He,
Mhm.
what was the brand he always wore? Sorry. Feel bad for forgetting.
Burberry? I don't know. That's what
No, not Burberry. It was British, but it's got really great.
London Fog. I don't know. I don't know. Kerry.
It's gone.
It's okay. You know what? It'll probably come to you later. Is it?
It will, and then I'll just yell it out.
But what about Castiel? Does he have a particular brand?
He changed. He wore Calvin Klein suits for a while.
Sure.
And then he was in Hugo Boss, because his suits, of course, we'd buy as many as we possibly could.
Mm-hmm.
But then they'd start getting destroyed.
Yeah.
And suits with the kind of action, they're not made for the kind of action that these guys, that Castiel would perform in episodes. So it's not like a pair of jeans that would last a few months. He would start blowing, like suits he would blow through very often. So there was a couple times when we just start running out of trench coats, couldn't find the same one, and you just have to like slip the one that looked the most like the other one right in there and just switch it up a bit. And then it's like when we found the ties, we just had to like seriously like comb the planet for that tie, you know.
Yeah, I was going to tell you, Kerry, I don't know if you had heard this, but apparently Mika, who played am I got that right? Mika Collins, right?
Yeah.
Who played Castiel? Am I saying that right?
Yeah.
Okay. He had talked about how he had done a fitting where he had this particular trench coat. And when he saw his costume, he was like, oh, I think maybe I'm going to put on a German accent for this character. He was like a Gestapo kind of character. Do you remember that? It was sort of like almost like a dark charcoal gray, as opposed to his usual tan or khaki. And I thought that was so interesting. So he didn't come up with that until after he saw his costume.
Oh, I didn't even know about that. I don't even remember putting him in the gray. That must have been another alternate universe one.
I think it was the alternate universe, and he's interrogating somebody. And he did say later he kind of regretted it, but it was so great. Like it was just such a cool choice, I thought.
I mean, they're all so funny, you know, that's
oh yes. Alicia, do you want to go next? I think actually we haven't.
No, that's that.
We got that brought us to Castiel, didn't it?
Yeah.
Do you want to skip that one then and go to the next one?
I think we can. Yeah, we've mentioned and talked about his coat a few times.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
For some of the supporting characters,
Mm-hmm.
who has like your favorite costume designs, like Bobby, Crowley, Rowena, or someone else?
Rowena.
So fun.
Yeah, she was great. And it was just one of those characters that you could really go off and be really creative with, because she was so outside of like the usual supernatural boundaries. Especially because it was just, there's so many males on the show. Of course, there's, female guest stars, and, Mary and other females leads are, supporting actors. But it was really, really fun. Also, I really love dressing Benny. That was really great.
Oh yeah, we were talking about Benny.
Yeah, he was fun. I mean, that was right when whatchamacallit, Peaky Blinders had just come out too. So it was just, we were kind of doing our own, I don't know, we wanted him kind of rough and tumble, but almost looking like, you know what I mean? He had a grit to him, especially when he goes back into the town. I think it was later after they're stuck in purgatory. Yeah, it's like,
and he's kind of burly. Like you've got him almost
burly.
like a
He's
Greek
burly,
fisherman.
Yeah.
And
that's we were going for that ruggedness, and I think the whole Peaky Blinders thing was a little bit later on with a bunch of other vampires too.
That's so fun. I love it. You had so many great characters. We were trying to remember this character, but he was a really fun character too. And I love this
DJ
French
Smalls,
jacket you have on.
is Garth. Yeah.
Yes.
He's a
This
great
jacket's
actor.
awesome. Amazing. He loved that he has that Western vibe, I guess.
He can kind of be anything. He's
Mhm.
absolute sweetheart.
Hmm.
So tall.
Really? Oh yeah, he's taller than Jensen, it looks like.
He's a challenge, but he's also so slim that he looks even taller.
Wow.
But he's really great. He was just game for anything, and it was very much like he could play the kind of odder characters, and he really didn't have any ego about what we were dressing him in. He really just rolled with the punches, and of course we would discuss all the options with them to make sure, because you always want to make sure that the costume is not wearing the actor is wearing the costume.
Yeah,
Hmm.
absolutely.
And so that it fits in. And I want them to just think that, what they're wearing is just an extension of themselves, and never to actually second guess the costume that they're wearing at the time.
So the next question we have is, how did the show's tone evolve over 15 seasons? And I know you joined in 8, but example, going from the monster of the week to myth arc heavy impact your design choices. Sorry, does that make sense?
It does. I mean, I love the Monsters of the Week, and I don't think
Me too.
Ever, it was so much fun designing the monsters and their costumes. Some of them got very complicated, but they were great fun. And really, it was with the breakdown artists and creating these just really creepy. I don't watch horror or fun monster shows myself, so it was very interesting to create them. But shifting into the mythical with the gods and angels and everything was really great, because then I love deep diving into research. And so that made me really, each character, really dissect who they were and what the mythical background to them was. It's I love Greek mythology. It's it's just, I found it really enticing. The writers were so great with the way they told the story, because it seemed to be this almost strange parallel. It was all about good and evil, and it's and what's going on in the world. I mean, I think there is a lot deeper themes going on in the show than just, escapism TV. It was really, I loved it. I mean, every one of them is just be it a monster or, a god. I mean, there were some really interesting ones. We were talking about Cain before. He was.
Yeah, let me see if I can find him here.
Yeah.
Well, here's Death. I showed you this one earlier. And
that actor just looks like Death. Not doesn't look like Death, but you know what I mean?
No, well, I was telling you, I did a play with Julian years ago, and he's in the movie Cube. I don't know if anyone's seen Cube. It's a horror movie. He's amazing, but he's so good, and he's got that elegant, posh British accent, though. So
he does,
And then we have. Let me see if I can find Cain here. Where is it? No, sorry, everyone. They're just so small. I can't see them quite well.
Those thumbnails are difficult.
They are. Okay, you guys can keep talking, and oh, here he is. I found him. There he is.
He was great. A really interesting actor too.
Mm-hmm.
He's done something else, and he does singing and dancing.
Really?
He was in a great show, right? I think while he was shooting this, that was absolutely amazing. Not Pirates of Penzance, but just.
Oh, he's got the beard and the hair and everything, right?
I can't remember what he did. I mean, I'd have to IMDb it to try and figure out what it is.
Yeah.
I saw some of it, and I was just whoa,
And then I showed you earlier, we had, so we have Rick Springfield, who's playing a rock star, but he is being possessed by Lucifer, I believe, at this point. So he's got that rock star aesthetic, which I love this jacket, by the way.
We had all that custom made for him.
Oh, so great.
Yeah. There's a really great company in Vancouver, Ocean Drive Leather. And they work with a lot of all that, the pin edging on the piping.
Yes, that beautiful contrast.
Yeah,
it feels very like I was going to say Adam Ant, maybe.
I loved Adam and the Ant.
Yeah. Stand and Deliver.
And quite honestly, very young teenage me loved Rick Springfield too.
Oh my God, me too. I used to watch him on General Hospital. he was Dr.
General
Noah Wiley, I
Hospital.
believe.
Yeah.
So no, that was like when I heard he was going to be on the show. I was like, by the way, so many great guest stars that you
So
had.
many. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was
Like I
fantastic.
think, did you have Dee Wallace on at one point? I thought I saw a picture of her. I couldn't remember. Do you remember Dee Wallace? She was in the original E.T. She played the mom. I thought I saw a
She
picture.
was on the show, but I can't.
I saw a picture. Oh, I saw a picture of her, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, Dee Wallace was on the show. I totally forgot." Just the fact that you would have Dee Wallace on is just amazing.
I'm checking with my cheat sheet here.
And then, of course, Jeffrey, he comes back as well. Because he was Dean Morgan, who is, in The Walking Dead and horrifying in that show.
Negan.
Negan.
He was exactly the character he needed to be.
Yeah, no, he was
Serious.
funny. He would come in all like,
Negan and Mary. Back
he's
together.
like, I'm only doing a 5-minute fitting, and then he wouldn't.
Yeah,
he was fine. He was just like,
yeah. It's funny too because he, I think he kind of lost weight. Like I think he was, because he was on that Grey's Anatomy, I believe, and then he did Supernatural, and I think he was a little bit burlier. And then when he was in The Walking Dead, he kind of like lost weight, I think, and so I think at this stage he looks like he's still fairly slim.
Yeah, he was very.
Alicia, do you want to ask?
He was such a funny man, though, too. Like, just
I've heard, yeah,
great sarcasm.
He seems
and
like
I
he
appreciate
is.
some good sarcasm.
I've always loved him, and of course he's in The Boys too. Like so,
I know The Boys is
also,
just like a Supernatural reboot now, isn't it?
Yes, it's turned into that, hasn't it?
Yeah.
And I'm here for all of that.
Me too. I think there's one more
So
season.
There is. Yep, they're working on it now. We don't have a date for it just yet, though. I am on the lookout. So over all of the years for Supernatural, is there like one specific costume or like episode full of costumes that you are the most proud of?
I loved. So when I first started, I think it was the like second or third episode was when we did Artemis. And that was one of my first really cracks at a god, a mythical person, this and that. And it's just like, and I pitched for her to be in head to toe leather, like super strong, powerful woman. And they went for it. And I was just so excited. And I loved how strong she looked. And she was, I think it was also because it was just the beginning. I was just like, I loved it so much. And then other ones.
I don't have the picture of it, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it was great.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to think of some of the others. I mean, Amara was great. I loved like making her dress, her original dress you first see her in.
Mm-hmm.
It's like we had to do tests with wind. And so really we had fans taking video for the showrunner to show that we could make her dress float and move and dance. It was
beautiful.
Yeah. Other than ones I've already mentioned, I mean, there's been so many.
I don't know if this is the dress here. Like maybe
it is the dress. Yeah. But
and
it has so many layers underneath so that it would billow when they first see her.
Sorry, Kerry, this is a terrible example.
You can't see it.
I'm showing you the back.
She had Amara later on when she went into human form had some pretty dope outfits too.
Mm-hmm. Well, I have this one picture of her here. I think this is in the final season. I mean, she's gorgeous too. So that's
what I was going to talk. This is a Dries Van Noten suit we put on her, and it was just so stunning.
Mm-hmm. She reminds me of someone too, and I can't figure out who it is. Like someone, like maybe a classic Hollywood actress, but she's got that sort of her bone structure and everything. It's just stunning, right?
The other one,
special shout out to Tati in the chat. Hello, sis, we miss you.
There was the other actress. Oh my god, how am I forgetting this? The one who
she reminds me of the lady that was in Bedazzled with Brendan Fraser.
Tatiana says she loves Death's first costume.
She loves whose?
She loves Death's first costume.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, obviously what I love is that you sort of go against trope. Like you could have done death with the typical death, like
Yeah.
was the salmon moose or something like that. But you don't. You go against and you make it more grounded, and I love that the costumes are grounded.
Abaddon was another fun one. And then when we went back into Henry Winchester, John Winchester's dad, into the whole Men of Letters, the original one, that was really fun and kind of cultish with the robes. And then there's the Abaddon episode where she's a nun, which was really fun too.
Alicia, my next. We won't keep.
I believe you are.
Yes. Too much longer. Let me see. Okay, what did your costume team look like season to season? Like, how many people were involved, and what departments did you oversee? I know you mentioned you had like an assistant costume designer, maybe a couple. So yeah, what did your team look like?
We had in-house builders, seamstresses, and cutters. There was a complete sewing room. We had a complete breakdown room. Really, there was people who had to just manage the stock and restocking and dealing with hot stock. And then the crew with BG and then the on-set people. I think there was probably like a good 15 to 20 people in the department, which is really small for like some of the big shows will have like 100 costumes.
It is small. Absolutely.
But the shoppers were great. We had a real core team, and really it's like, I still work with a lot of my team now. It's been fantastic. You really are a family because you spend so much time with your department that you end up really becoming tight friends and family to each other, and are there for each other, like for whatever it may be. But then on the bigger episodes, of course, when you start getting into the crazy breakdown days, it's like there's so many people.
So you'd have to bring in some additional crew for that.
Yeah, especially if you got like say for LARPing, because you'd need to get those people dressed. You'd need one person per like 5 to 7 characters. When normally for regular contemporary, you can have one person per 20 people. So it's just like, but when you're dressing, you've got corsets and you've got all these long skirts. And I think it had rained the day before and it was muddy, and it was just like one of those things that you've got to just contend with and make sure it doesn't look like it is on the clothing.
Kerry, would you like be on set with them on those big show days or
Oh yeah, I'd always go to set. Yeah, I'd go check in, make sure everything was running fine, especially like for establishing if there was a new guest star. We go in just to make sure they're comfortable and they're happy, or just go out to the truck before they go on to set and just make sure that everything's good.
Okay, so Alicia, I think it's your turn next. Yeah. We've got a few more questions for Kerry, and then we won't keep her much longer.
I'm all good. Don't worry about it.
Okay, good.
So did you ever make a look or design that based on an Easter egg or a specific fan theory? Which I love this question. This is my favorite on the list.
I didn't make something, but somebody had told me that there was all these theories going over Twitter about Dean and his black and red plaid. When he wore that, it was saying something was happening. So I started playing with the fans with it.
Oh, I love that.
Nice.
And so we would throw it in there, usually when there was something coming up, but sometimes when there wasn't.
But he was wearing it on the very last episode.
So that is why I suggested it be his final look. It was kind of thank you to the fans. I know everybody just loved it for some reason. It was just, they always talked about it.
I remember some of those discussions. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was really, they had the whole theories behind it. So I figured let's just end with their fave.
Yeah. That's cool.
It looks good on him though. Like,
it does. It does.
It's very flattering. So I think that's so fun that you did that. So, and were there ever times where, aside from that, where there would be like someone thought it was an Easter egg that you were like, no, that was just an accident?
There was some people had theories about other things, and I can't even remember what it was. I think it was about colors of plaids and what you were using, and it was just like, I'm like, I wish that I had it in me to actually be that creative with
Mhm.
what color shirts and plaids and stuff we're using, to give hints to that. Because it's like, that would take an entire team in itself to try and track that out.
Yeah, but also you'd probably have to custom do the plaids. Did you ever do that, by the way? Did you ever custom make any of their clothes for them?
We did, yes. For
Mhm.
certain things, specific ones. One of the big problems was when you buy plaids, not all of them have the same patterns.
Mhm.
So a collar will be cut differently than other ones. And for continuity, we would have to buy extra shirts and change. We'd make sure the fronts of all the shirts were the same, but sometimes we'd have to replace sleeves and plackets and collars so that they match the other shirts.
Wow.
So
Oh my gosh,
little
these are
things
things
like
you don't
that
even
for
think that.
continuity, and it
Yeah.
drove our seamstress cutter insane.
Mhm.
And even like just matching any kind of prints like that, because the collars are so, like when they're doing this with when they're talking and the close-ups, you see the collar every time, and if it's switching back and forth in between two different collars, I can't have that. So we had to really be careful about weird things.
Yeah, there's all these things you don't even, like, as a layperson, as someone just watching it as an audience, you don't even think about. Now I know you, Kerry, I know you, this is maybe a mute because we've already mentioned that you had a big, sale, just I think your first year, but how much wardrobe did you accumulate over the years? Like, or did you just kept calling it as you went along?
We tried to call what we could because there were certain things that were damaged. So we wouldn't hold on to damaged things, because also things, if they have certain types of breakdown, like the costume blood ends up rotting after a certain period of time because it's made out of, come on, Kerry, some
Is it-
sugary, not maple
Yeah.
syrup. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
I know what you're talking. Glycerin?
No. Breakdown nurse is going to kill me.
But it's a food stuff though.
It's
So
sugar
it's,
based. It's
yeah, so it would start
because
to,
if you get it on their face or whatever, they
yeah,
have to.
exactly.
And that
makes
starts
sense.
rotting and molding. So we'd have to get rid of that. There was calls, but like I said, it was never anything that was important. It was more things that were outdated, or jackets that we couldn't use anymore, or even like there was sometimes cozy coats that the actors would wear to stay warm that had just been worn out and done, and we had to update. And really, there was some donations to like downtown East Side to, people with, housing difficulties and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, and
I was
then
going to say that I read that after you had that one big sale, anything that didn't sell got donated to charity. So that was really, really nice.
it did, yeah. And it's like, I have a friend who works very closely with the homeless on downtown East Side, and we would send, what we could, what was approved, of course, to send that way. And I tried to like, especially the old jackets and the things that are needed in the winter here. I was just like, okay, come on, let's just give them to the people who need it. It's like, in film, we spend a lot of money, it's just like things just, when a show finishes, there's also this extra stuff. And it's like, I think it's good to give back to the people who need it. And then a lot of the times other shows, like other CW shows, when we finished, would come in and get first dibs out of things. So.
Alicia, it's your turn.
That's cool. Yes. Did you or any of the cast keep anything at the end of the series?
I didn't.
Allegedly.
We
Some
won't tell.
deletes did, yeah.
We won't tell if you did.
I have no idea what you're talking about. Some things may have gone to their bags for a Comic-Con, just so they,
apparently if you do that on a Disney show, you will be fired.
I didn't see anything, so
yeah, I don't blame you.
And that will not stand up in court.
Yeah, it just seems, I just have to say it's so weird though that you're not allowed to have something like that you've been wearing.
Well, Jared and Jensen were allowed to take things.
Oh, they were, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think certain numbers of cast. I can't remember who it was to. Like, I'm pretty sure. I can't remember if Castiel was allowed to keep a trench coat or not. Or sorry, Misha. But Jared and Jensen were allowed to go through, but they would always borrow things for Comic-Con or for conventions.
We're almost at the end here. Okay, what happened to the costume? We already asked this.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of it they did end up having a sale.
Okay.
I wasn't there because, of course, it was a long it took the woman, my supervisor, who had taken over when I had to go on to Nancy Drew. She oversaw the wrap, and that took almost 2 months, of course.
Yeah.
And they did, because like I said, I think Superman and Lois, was that the next one? I think that was the recent one, right? There's been so many different Supermans. They came over and took a bunch of stuff. And then one of the auction houses, they did a giant sale. And then they buy it and then they sell it. But crazily enough, people kept finding me on Instagram and trying to bribe me to get them things.
Wow.
And I was like, they're not mine to sell. I'm very sorry. And then like they would keep going. I'm like, listen, I'm blocking you. You know what I mean? I'm not risking my career so you can get a plaid shirt. I'm sorry. You know, like
seriously.
Yeah, I think you told me you had to actually close your DMs at one point. Did you?
I made my account private.
Yeah, that's a shame, right? That people are doing that.
People can still, you can still get, like, they can attempt to message you, but I still get people messaging me because they're going to a convention and want to dress up, and they're like, "Where did you get this shirt?" And I'm like, "Babes, that was 12 years ago. Like, I have no idea."
Now, I was telling, I don't know who I was interviewing recently, but I was saying a lot of the stuff, there's this thing called Shop Your TV you can go to. It tells you where to find the stuff. So you won't get the same one, but you can find something similar.
We can reenact it. I mean, it's not.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, seriously.
Yeah. So actually, Alicia, there's one in the chat. Do you want to ask that one?
Yeah. Let me pull it back up. Oh, sorry.
Here, you pull it. So you go ahead.
Yeah. So what were some of the biggest challenges with clothes for the show?
I think it was the sheer bulk of them. It was like we had so many. And then once again, it was tracking, like, because for one episode, the boys could have 13 changes. And so you're also, because there's an ensemble cast, you have to make sure that the colors aren't the same, but they're also, the leads are all wearing colors that are light enough so that they stand out from the set they're on. But you have to think about the other set they're going to go to later. And it's really, the bulk of what you need to actually accomplish that. Like, it's just racks and racks of different colors of shirts. And then, like, making sure it's not a similar pattern that so-and-so wore, you know what I mean? It's,
Did you or your wardrobe supervisor keep I think you said someone kept a binder and
you could log.
A log. Yeah.
Episode to know, also with jackets. So we didn't reuse jackets too much. Because it was pretty magical that they pretty much, lived out of a car most of the time, but they,
I know, it was good. That was one thing I was like, you have to suspend your belief, right? Because they're living out of a car. Where are they keeping all of these clothes? How are they paying for the clothes? I heard, though, that there was this rumor going around that apparently they would do like some kind of pool scam. That's how they made their money. The brothers on the show, like in canon, they had some kind of like, grift, I should say.
They did. That was the kind of backstory. They did have grifts. They would make up credit card numbers. Like there was a bunch of backstory to,
because otherwise, how could they pay for all of their food, their hotels,
when he's going and getting pie and donuts and all that stuff?
I heard that was a Jensen thing, by the way, adding that that his character had this obsession with food. Like, there's this one of
his days when he regretted that, when they're like, another take, and he's
like, I think they're in the the alternative universe, or maybe purgatory or something, and like they had to bake or cook rat or something.
Yes,
or squirrel.
Squirrel.
And then he goes back and gets it. Like, do you remember that, Alicia? That scene? With Dean?
Vaguely, but
he was like, "What's it taste like? Don't tell me it tastes like chicken."
I mean, they were all like, it was like, as much as it was like a serious, like, sci-fi monster show, there was so much comedic value. Like, they were also like really funny guys. And they really, and quite honestly, sometimes the pranks they'd play on each other, it's like, okay, guys, we got to keep shooting. It's just like, they would just drive each other crazy. Like, and they would, like, Jared and Jensen would gang up on Misha, and
Yeah,
It was,
says they love the supernatural theater play episode as well. It
I
was so
love
fun.
that one, episode 200. It was
Mhm,
so much fun.
mhm. So the last question that I have, and I think Tatiana has a question. Maybe we'll leave that one for the end, Alicia.
Yep, sounds good.
Am I asking the last one, or is it you?
I
you're
will
asking
toss it to you so I can search the chat real quick.
Sure. Okay.
Go ahead.
So Kerry, what's it like for you now seeing fans and cosplayers recreate the looks that you helped define for over a decade? Like, and do you ever go to like Fan Expo, which is in Toronto? I don't know if you have a Comic-Con out in Vancouver.
We do have something here.
Okay.
I haven't been.
Yeah. Our big one is or San Diego. Do you ever go to any of the cons, or do you ever?
No, there was a bunch of us who got invited down to one in Seattle one time,
Hmm.
but like it was me and the makeup artists and like a bunch of things. But it was a little dodgy the way we were getting invited down, and it really wasn't. Yeah, it was strange. So we were making our decision collectively as a group of women on the show, and we weren't comfortable with like what they were kind of setting up for us. But as far as fans replicating and recreating, I am so honored. Like really, it's like to be able to be on a show that was this huge and is this much of a following, and to have people who love my work and recreate it. I am just so chuffed and honored. Like it's just, I mean, I do answer most of the people when they ask me a question about, what's this? I'll be like, it's this. I think it was Zara, but it was like 10 years ago. Most of them I do answer because it's just like, I don't want to be the person like, I'm just going to ignore you. When I see them, I do. Some of them, it'll be like, sorry, babes, we made that, it's like, I'll be like, just go to a secondhand store and recreate it. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Now, what happened to all the like your logs and all the paperwork and all of that? Does someone still have that, or what? Where does that end up? Or in the archives?
Everything gets archived. Everything I think gets sent down to Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers did keep a big selection of iconic costumes that they brought down for like a museum that they have down there for each show. So we had a giant list that we had to go through and pull costumes from.
Oh, so can the public go and view these if they go down to Warner Brothers
all the time, or if it's something where maybe they'll have a retrospective at some point for different shows, or perhaps, I mean, I'm not sure, but I know Warner Brothers did want to keep some of the classic pieces. Like, of course, they have like Castiel's entire outfit. They've got like a bunch from the boys, and then a bunch of like the different ones from the boys, like the specialty outfits. So I thought that was really cool. Like it's, so it's going to be kept.
Yeah, and maybe they'll do an exhibit at some point, because I know like Stanley Kubrick, for instance, they have an exhibit and they've archived everything and they took photos. And actually I think it was Ransom Center. I wanted to find a costume that from a movie that I was looking into, and I emailed them and they went and they pulled it out of archives. And I should try doing that. Actually, I should try approaching them and say, hey, are you able to pull this out of the archive and take a picture of it for me? And that's what they did.
That's amazing. I mean, we did with rental houses, trying to get them to do that is hard.
I know. So I did. They were. I think they're funded. Like this is the Ransom Center, but they have like Robert De Niro. He betrothed all of his like every costume he's ever worn in any movie, and there was one I wanted to see, and so they did, and it was like very, very cool. But the only thing is, I'm not allowed to share it on social media or anything. It's only for my eyes.
I mean, it's their property.
It's their property.
Victoria and Albert Museum in London does I went to a really great costume retrospective there that had some really interesting pieces from some classic movies. It was really great.
Was that the one that Deborah Nadoolman did? Like it, because there was one I know that they did at the V&A, and she was having a hard time finding, like, for instance, John Travolta's.
Probably it was around 2012.
Yes, that sounds like it. And then, but they were able to track them down because the auction houses have like they have the information, so they know who has bought everything.
Yes, they do. They do track it.
Yeah, I love that, and I'd like to see more of that. I'd love to see more of them, exhibiting these, iconic pieces.
It's part of our culture. It's
absolutely.
And it's a fantasy thing, and it's yeah.
So there's one question from Tatiana here. Hopefully it's okay if I ask you this. It's slightly off topic. She says, "Hey, I am designing costumes for my first feature film, and I'm in negotiation with production over ownership of them. Any advice on how to handle that aspect?"
Ownership of the costumes?
Yeah, Tatiana, do you mean ownership of the design or ownership of the costumes? Maybe she can respond.
Quite honestly, once somebody is paying for you to do something, you no longer own it. It is the studios.
She said the design.
Even the design, if they're paying you to do it, it's theirs.
What about your sketches though that you do?
Sketches,
Are those?
I mean, I've had shows that have asked for all sketches at the end of a season, and they collect them. Sketches, I would always keep my originals, and if you want them, I would just give them the copies. But always keep your original sketches. Those are your art, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
But what I've had to do myself with my website is you usually have to ask permission to use any photos. And then underneath the photo on your website, you just have to put a little underscript of property of whatever it is, just want to be careful of the legalities, because the last thing you want to do is not being able to show the work you have done on your own website to promote yourself because you've not asked the proper permission.
Yeah, Tatiana's saying she's doing this pro bono, so she's not getting paid.
Oh, well, that's a little different.
Yeah.
I think those designs are yours, baby.
Yeah, absolutely.
And congrats, Tati.
Congrats, Tatiana.
Yeah,
it's always fun doing your first one.
Congratulations, Tatiana. Like she's been aspiring for a while, so I'm really happy for her. This is actually Lindsay. I'll have her on next time, Tatiana. Lindsay is she has this thing called a costume consultant, and she helps costume people, navigate getting into the business and everything. So maybe I can bring her on and Tatiana help you a little bit more with like working in the business and all that. Kerry, oh my gosh, this has been so fun. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. And it's the 5th anniversary of the show completing. I think as of November, like we're a little early, but
they finished shooting in August.
In August. Okay.
Yeah.
But it didn't air until
it didn't air until later. Yeah.
Yeah, but this is just like, I mean, this, you were saying that you had your son involved and working on this, and and I mentioned to you earlier, for me, I have a personal connection in that when I had my first son, who is 19 now, my husband and I we put him to bed and we would watch Supernatural because he was born in 2006. So it had just been like season 1 came out, and I think we actually went and got it on DVD so we could just watch the whole season in those days when people watch things on DVD. So that was our way. So now my son's 19. So I grew up with, my son grew up while we were watching this series. And the other one we watched was True Blood. Those were the two that we were really into at the same time.
That's scary for me. Was it Tatiana who was just doing their first movie?
Yes, Tatiana.
Tell them to feel free to reach out if they have any questions.
Oh my gosh.
I love mentoring. I feel like it's something we need to give back in this industry. There's a lot of gatekeeping, and I am the opposite of that. So I seriously am always open to trying to help people.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Tatiana, that's such a wonderful offer. Kerry, I'll have to put you in touch with her because Tatiana, she lives, she doesn't live in Canada, but that's okay, right? We can put you in touch. Okay. She says, "Oh my God, that'd be amazing."
You got to pay it back. You know what I mean? It's just
she's on Instagram
lift
too.
People up. It's just the way you have to be good about things. I'm very grateful and honored, and just so thankful for what I do for a living that I get to do this. And I want to help anybody else find their dream too.
Alicia, do you have any questions for Kerry before we let her go?
I don't. Thank you for being here with us. It was a great convo.
It was amazing. And it was fun going through all the pictures and everything too.
Kerry, I still haven't remembered what that blood is made out of. It's some kind of sugar.
Kerry, and did I mention that you do have a Wikipedia page on the Supernatural Wiki? Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
You do.
What about me?
It's about you. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I was mentioning to I was talking to Sharon from the Wheel of Time, and I said, Sharon, you know that on the Wikipedia you have, and so I happened to look up yours. And then when I went to the Wheel of Time, when I saw she had one, you both have a Wikipedia page. So that's kind of fun, right?
I didn't even know that. Can you send that to me?
Sure. Yeah. And then what I wanted to do is I wanted to reach out to them and ask if we could add a link to this, our
Oh,
conversation.
that's rad. I had no idea.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, right?
I have to tell my mom.
Yay! Tell your mom I say
Who you
hello, by
got?
the way. Yeah, and hopefully Kerry and I will get to see each other again at some point, like maybe when you're in town, or we'll go to a CAFCAT event together, and I can hang out with you. Well, anyway, Kerry, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I really, really appreciate it. I also want to thank Daria for putting this together. Like, I've been harassing her and to have you on, so I really thank her.
That was amazing.
Okay, well, so thanks so much. And everyone who came by, I really appreciate it. Your questions were wonderful. And if you're watching this on the replay, thank you so much. Have a wonderful.
Thank you both.
Yeah,
it was really great.
Well.
It was nice going down memory lane with all your photos and everything too.
Oh, I'm so glad you liked it. Yes. They're all on the
Fun
Wikipedia,
times.
by the way. So if anyone wants to look, they have whoever put together the Wikipedia did an amazing job.
Is that the Supernatural Wikipedia?
The Supernatural Wikipedia.
That's a woman from Australia, and the fact that I forgot her name, I'm a bad person. She ended up coming up to Vancouver and visiting us too, because we were referencing her sometimes when we were having to go back with the ADs for continuity. Oh, I almost had the name for a second. Oh, but yeah, she's amazing.
Well, anyway, I want to shout out to her because, yeah, I got all the pictures from there, and she's got it so beautifully sorted and by episode. And then she's got all these wonderful photos put up. And of course, she's got all the show descriptions. And so it was really, really a wonderful experience for me as well, like kind of going back through that again.
Excellent.
All right. Well, take care, everyone.
Thanks a lot.
Okay.
All right.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.